Good morning, everybody. My goodness, there's still so much news coming in. I can't keep up on all of it, but thank you, everybody, so much for all this information. So I just want to do a quick video here about some stuff. I watched Ugly Watchtower's video again now that I've calmed down. But I was looking at the documents that she is showing in her video, and at 21 minutes in about 10 seconds, she shows a document that is signed. It has Watchtower Bible and Tract Society stamped, at the bottom. But right above that, I happened to notice, by orders of the board, and signed, excuse me, signed by a trustee. And I'm looking at these documents, and it's like, my goodness. I think those of us working on this have opened a can of worms. And I want to thank you so much, everybody, for all of you sending me these links, because, like I said, I had to ask a few friends to help me out here because there's just so much coming in. And anyway, also, she has the link down below. Now, someone down in the comment put a link to, and in that link to Reddit, and, ever since some past problems with people posting stuff on Reddit, I do want to thank this person, though. Looks like Eric on Reddit, and it was a post, but in that there is a link to the JP Trust Fund. You guys are going to love this. So I'm going to put the link down below. Now all you have to do is do a search in the document and for Watchtower, and it will take you to Capital Shares, and it's the Watchtower Bible Tract Society of Pennsylvania. Attention, Treasurer's Office. Now, for those of you who don't know how to search an actual document that maybe you pull up on the internet, if you're on a computer, you can hit Control and F, and a little box will come up, and then you just put whatever word you're searching for in there, and you can search an entire document in just a minute. But anyway, that was the only one that came up. So Watchtower has Capital Shares with JP Morgan Trust. It just gets deeper and deeper, I'm telling you. My goodness. Now also, I want to thank Poison Barbie for sending me this. This is from The Age. It is Victoria Catholic Church. Mandatory reporting laws for religious institutions come into effect. Awesome. Laws requiring clergy to report child abuse to authorities, even if it's heard in the confession box, will come into effect on Monday, ending the special treatment for Victoria's religious institutions. Yay, Australia. And I would like to see this happen worldwide. The seal has now been lifted for the suspected sexual abuse of children, with spiritual and religious leaders required to report the abuse or face up to 3 years in prison. That's not long enough. From Monday, our promise to put the safety of children ahead of the secrecy of the confession is in full effect, and there is no excuse for people who fail to report abuse. Well, I hope they go after Watchtower and those elders and circuit overseers to them. The changes bring religious and spiritual leaders in line with teachers, police, medical practitioners, nurses, school counselors, and early childhood and youth justice workers who are required to report the abuse and mistreatment of children. The Catholic Church was a staunch critic of requiring priests to break the seal. Well, of course. Just like Watchtower's fighting and using the excuse now here in this country of clergy pittance privilege. Okay, Yeah, he was a staunch critic of requiring priests to break the seal, with Melbourne Archbishop Peter Comensoli publicly declaring he would rather go to jail. Good. Good. I hope they put him in jail. And I hope he becomes Bubba's girlfriend. When asked in August if he would comply with the new laws, Archbishop Comensoli told ABC Radio Melbourne he would personally keep the seal. Of course, just like the elders and Watchtower is going to want to do that too. The Children Legislation Amendment Bill 2019 followed a recommendation in the 2017 final report of the Royal Commission into Institutional Responses to Child Sex Abuse that clergy and confession no longer be exempt from mandatory reporting. Good. There's another good thing that came out of the Australian Royal Commission. See, it's still doing its job. The new laws also ensure that disclosures are not exempt under the Failure to Disclose offense in the Crimes Act and allows survivors of institutional abuse to apply to the courts to have their unfair historical compensation payments overturned. Good. Good. Now, I'm not going to read the rest of this, but I'm going to put the link down below to this article, and this is good news for Australia and the abuse survivors there. Now, there's something else I would like to share that is disturbing. So, thank you, Lois, so much for sending me this. I've got the Bond volume. This is so infuriating. It's very hard to keep my cool because I would love to just rant, like Mikey does. But this is from the April 8th, 1993 Awake. Victims of pedophile priest speak out. Now I want you to think about what Watchtower has been doing, how they've been hiding this for decades, and what they're writing here about the Catholic Church. And this goes along with, what I said the other day, that when we would go out in service, we'd be using this to, bashing the Catholic Church, saying, oh, look what they're doing, not realizing that Watchtower had just as bad, if not worse, of a problem per capita. This is on page 31. During the past decade, some 400 Roman Catholic priests have been reported to church or civil authorities for sexual abuse of children, according to U.S. News and World Reports. Now, that was a popular magazine back then. It was kind of like Time magazine or, something like that. A national gathering of survivors of such abuse was held near Chicago, Illinois. Many spoke openly of how they'd been victimized by pedophile priests. Now that reminds me, I just want to mention, when I'm eating my lunch, I like to watch Dr. G, Medical Examiner, while I'm eating my lunch. I know most people couldn't watch that when they were eating lunch, but I've got a strong stomach. But during that show, an advertisement has been coming up every day, and it's an advertisement for a law firm, the Goldberg Law Firm. And in their advertisement, it's specifically directed at to victims of clergy abuse. And in the advertisement, he says, in many states, the statute of limitations has been raised, so call us. And they give an 800 number. But that's the thing. These lawyers, if you're in Europe, solicitors, are realizing that there is a problem and there is money to be made. Hey, if they get money from it, I don't care. As long as it brings down Watchtower and the Catholic Church and some of these others who are abusing children and hiding it, hey, let them get money. Just like the victims. I would like to see them get as much as they can. I would like to see every single one of them get millions and millions of dollars. Just break these organizations to where they all have to file for bankruptcy. That's my personal opinion. Going on with the article. But NCR, the National Catholic Reporter, notes that speakers sounded another theme repeatedly throughout the conference. The first abuse is sexual. The second, and more painful, is psychological. Okay, now listen to what he says. The second abuse occurs when the church refuses to listen to victims of abuse, fails to take their accusations seriously, and moves only to protect the offending priest. You blankety-blank hypocrites. You know, I don't know how these writers of these Watchtower and Awake magazines even sleep at night. You know, especially now in light of all the abuse they have in their organization. Wow. Fairly or unfairly, NCR reports they portrayed Catholic clergy as belonging to an unhealthy and misguided group, more bent on preserving privilege and power than in serving lay needs. That's exactly what Watchtower has been doing. They care more about their own organization and reproach on Jehovah's name and their money than the victims. Several speakers made ominous comparisons to the Reformation, which split the church wide open in the 16th century. According to Richard Sipe, a former priest turned psychotherapist and expert on sexual abuse by Catholic clergy, all this institutional denial reveals a deep, desperate, and knowing personal involvement in the problem. He added, the church knows and has known for a long time a great deal about the sexual activity of its priests. It has looked the other way, tolerated, covered up, and simply lied about the broad spectrum of sexual activity of its priests. And that's why we keep saying the governing body knows. They've known for decades what's going on. They're part of the problem. And it makes me wonder how many of them have been involved in this too. Not surprisingly then, many abuse survivors are suing the church. Good. NCR quotes one attorney who specializes in such cases as saying that there are pedophile priest cases in each of the church's 188 dioceses in the United States. And several have sent me the link to a YouTube news out of Pennsylvania. And yes, the Harrisburg, Pennsylvania diocese has filed bankruptcy because of all the millions of dollars they've had to pay out. Let's just hope that trend continues over to Watchtower. He says that out-of-court settlements have run as $300,000 per case. U.S. News and World Report says that such suits have already cost the church $400 million, a figure that could surge to $1 billion by the year 2000. Now, we know that has become a tremendous amount here in 2019 to 2020 because many of these dioceses have had to pay those kind of amounts by themselves, just one diocese. And the Canadian press reported recently that some 2,000 survivors of child sexual abuse in 22 church-run orphanages and mental institutions in Quebec are suing 6 religious orders for $1.4 billion in damages. Now I want to read these last couple of sentences because we know Watchtower has said, and Jehovah's Witnesses actually believe this. Oh, they're in it for money. They just want to, these greedy lawyers, they're just in it for money. And I think even Darrow has said something like that. Oh, they're just in it for money. Well, listen to what this says. National Catholic Reporter. So this is the Catholic Church's, media. The NCR concludes, survivors go to the court, it appears, not as a first resort, but as a last resort. Do you understand what he's saying? Even the Catholic article recognizes that these survivors, They don't want to jump in and go to court and sue, the Catholic Church. It's not about money. They do it as a last resort. So the same would apply for any other survivor of any other religion or organization. They are not in it for money. And if you talk to any of these survivors, they're not in it for money. They don't want it to happen to any other child. They want these organizations to admit and take responsibility. Most of them, they just want an apology. They don't want to see any more children hurt. Out of all the hundreds of abuse survivors I've talked to and been in contact with the past 7 years, money is the last thing they want. They're not in it for the money. So anyway, thank you for watching, and I'm going to put the links down below to everything. And I've got several more videos that I'm trying to get edited and uploaded, so hopefully I can get it done all this weekend. So you all have a wonderful day. Bye.